So, I'm going to start off with my picture book, which is called Bean 13. So, before I get into reading it, I'm going to talk about the author. His name is Matthew McElligott, and he is also the illustrator. This book was written in 2007. Some other books that Matthew has written is the Backbeard books, Benjamin Frankenstein, and there's also kind of other books that are Benjamin Frankenstein and the Fright Brothers, and Benjamin Frankenstein with Thomas and Edison. So, other than this book, he's kind of he likes doing sort of ghoulish kind of books. So that's kind of his things, and he also does Mad Scientist Academy. So on a website that I found about him, he talked about how Bean 13 was written for ages 4 to 8, but the way that I found this book was that it can be integrated into a variety of classes in like elementary school. So, and especially with math, this is a great math book to choose. So for younger grades, it can talk about even and odd numbers, and then for older grades, getting into like grade 3 to 6, it can start talking about multiplicity. And finally, like grade 6, it talks about prime and composite numbers, because that's where students are supposed to start learning it. That's what the GLO says. So, with a bit of background knowledge, I'm going to go and read the book.
Yeah.
All right. So, Bean 13 by Matthew McElligott. For Christy and Anthony. It was a warm summer night. Ralph and Flora were picking beans for dinner. "How many do we have?" asked Flora. "Looks like we have 12, said Ralph. "I'll pick one more," said Flora. "Don't do it," shouted Ralph. "Why on earth not?" asked Flora. 13 is an unlucky number, said Ralph. "Everyone knows that." "You're being silly," said Flora. "I am not," said Ralph. "You are too," said Flora. "I am not," said Ralph. "Are too, am not." At home, Ralph and Flora spread the beans out on the table. They made 2 piles, one for each of them. Each pile had 6 beans. "Oh, look," said Flora. "Here's one left over." "You take it, Ralph." "Bean 13, gasped Ralph. "Never! It's bad luck." "Ralph," said Flora, "please don't make a fuss." I'm not eating it," said Ralph, "and you can't make me." "I have an idea," said Flora. "I'm not eating it," said Ralph. "I don't understand," said Ralph. "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the part." Flora called their friend April. "April, would you like to come over for dinner? We're having beans." "I don't understand," said Ralph. "We're only going to feed April 1 bean?" "Of course not," said Flora. "We'll make 3 piles." Ralph and Flora separated the beans into 3 piles. Each pile had 4 beans. There was 1 bean left over. "Bean 13, said Ralph. "I told you." That is odd," said Flora. "Let's invite Joe too, and make 4 piles," added Ralph. "So it's fair." But when they made 4 piles, there was still 1 bean left over. "I don't understand," said Flora. "I do," said Ralph. "Bean 13 is trouble." "It's just a bean," said Flora. "I'll call Meg. We'll make 5 piles." "This better work," said Ralph, and as they separated the beans into 5 piles, each pile had 2 beans. This time, there were 3 beans left over. "It's getting worse," gasped Ralph. "Don't panic," said Flora. "I'm calling Rocco. He eats everything." But something still wasn't right. "Why does Rocco get 3 beans?" complained Ralph. "That's more than anyone else." "Well, we could give him 2, said Flora. But...
Oh, no.
"But what?" said Ralph. "Never mind," said Flora. Tell me, said Ralph. But what? It's just that we'll still have an extra bean, said Flora. I'm really not sure why. Lousy Bean 13, cried Ralph. I can't stand it.
Oh no.
Ding dong, went the doorbell. Our guests are here, shouted Ralph. What are we gonna do? He jumped to his feet and he bumped the table, and the beans went everywhere. Oh, Ralph, sighed Flora. What a mess. Sorry, said Ralph. Here, said Flora, take this bowl and gather up all the beans. I'll get the door. Hello, everyone, said Flora. I'm so happy you could come. There are fresh beans in a bowl on the table, said Flora. Please help yourselves. The bugs sat down to eat. Does everyone have enough? It's perfect. You bet. Just right. Absolutely. Me too. How strange. Dinner was great fun, but at last it was time for the bugs to go home. You have to admit, said Flora, that worked out perfectly. It did, said Ralph, but I'm confused. What happened to Bean 13? Flora shrugged. Somebody ate it. But who? Asked Ralph. We'll never know, said Flora. Maybe April, maybe Rocco, maybe me, maybe even you.
No.
So
Yay, I love it.
it's a pretty fun book to read. And there's some good questions that you can ask from it. So there's the math aspects where you can ask, is 13 even or odd? And then you can figure out whether 13 is a prime or composite number. And then it can also start like a conversation about why 13 may be considered unlucky. Because we've all heard that superstition that 13 is an unlucky number. There are good parts where there's like arguing and it's just fun sort of interaction. And then there's also the pages that make you sort of guess about what it leads on to the next page. There's also a good problem-solving aspect to it as they start divvying up beans and calling over their friends, separating it into more piles, and then finally they figure out a way so that everyone gets exactly what they want. And then, of course, it's a pretty bright book, lots of vivid and dark and light colors, and it's just a great book to show off. So that is Bean 13 by Matthew I can't say his name. McElligott. Right. So that was the book that I did my thing on because it kind of incorporated math, and I incorporated it into a grade 6 class because that's where kids start learning prime and composite numbers. So that's great. So now
You
for
could
my
probably even use like division too.
yes,
Yeah.
division, multiplicity, yeah. That's usually learned around grade like 3 and 4 sort of thing. So, but still, yeah, great use of
Yeah,
that.
that's a super good book.
Especially for division, yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
'Cause-
It's hilarious.
Because it even shows like the piles. So
Yeah.
you got the
Yeah.
4 groups and it shows them individually and then it shows the one left over. But if you wanted to understand like the difference between 13 beans or if you had just 12,
Yeah.
great book to look at.
Yeah, remainder.
Exactly.
Learn about the remainder.
Right.
Just
Carry
so you know,
the one.
Just so you know, you're at 8 minutes and 37 seconds, so you got lots of time.
Okay.